The Fantasy Footballer Studio is brought to you by Amazon Prime. Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in.
It's football time! Woo! We hit that pretty well in honor of Mike H. Wright.
Where did the H come from?
The Hitman.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I know that's not his actual middle initial.
No. Welcome into the show. Jason Hall and Jason and Andy are here. I'm just give you my last name.
Jason
Holloway.
Moore,
Andy Holloway, and a Big Bear extraordinaire in the building today. Semifinal week. You can hit it. Hit the drop. Hit the drop.
I'm Jay Chris. I'm Jay Chris.
Jay Grizz, very proud to be in the building. We're very excited to be with you. We got news to talk about, starts of the week, the fantasy forecast, the Parlay Party, the clown show, as I call it. And, yeah, I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to feel the pressure of the weekend because I have one big start-sit decision of my own.
Yeah? Which is?
Tight end.
That's not really you don't have a big start-sit decision. You got a small start-sit decision.
You're saying because I don't have great options.
I'm saying you're like, am I going to get 6 points or am I going to get 4 points? That's kind of what you're toiling over right now.
I think there's a lot of other people with me because I got a lot of messages about the Brenton Strange, Kate Otten. As soon as I added Brenton Strange to the roster, we got news that he's hurt.
Yeah.
So he's got an AC joint sprain, so he's probably not the best option.
Now you had made the decision after the show to go with Strange over Otten. Am I correct?
I had been getting closer to that. Yeah, he had been in the lineup. I got messages though this morning about Laporta or Strange. I got messages about Mark Andrews and Strange. Mark Andrews. Yeah, that's the answer. Like this was a 1 week performance by Brenton Strange. We've had 1 week performances.
Yeah,
by Schoonmaker.
Parker Washington a couple weeks ago had like a billion targets and was it was like, oh, that was the player that Mac Jones just targeted a lot in that game. And then poof.
I watched the whole game, all the Brenton Strange targets. The Jets just didn't cover the middle of the field near the line of scrimmage because they didn't care about that. And it wasn't meaningful. It was 11 catches for 73 yards. So I'm going to make a proclamation right now, Jason. I will tell the Foot Clan my official tight end start tomorrow morning. I'm not doing it today.
Oh, really?
No.
Coward.
I've been researching. I've been thinking.
Is this because of the waiver wire? Like you want to this is you want to pick someone up and you don't want to give them the advice. What if the Foot Clan's out there and they need advice and that guy gets picked up?
No, I don't know what I'm doing yet. That's the truth. I don't know. I'll know tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Hey, if the show runs long, you can tell us what happens with your waivers after it goes through, which I'm looking at the timeline, all the stuff we got to get to in the show. I think by the end of the show, waivers are going to run, and we're going to know who you picked up, and then you could give the Foot Clan advice. See, you are –
I have never – I'm I'm sitting here in the same studio as one of my opponents. And it's not a game we're breaking down, today. So we'll see. We'll see.
This is
not special. This should not have attention on the show today.
Okay. Okay. Someone's calling their shot on Cole Kmet.
Well, here's the actual point that does make sense in the context of where we're headed is that these isolated one-off games from tight ends are very rarely repeated.
Yes.
And we've already got news like Stone Smart. We got news this morning that Hayden Hurst is returning for the Chargers if you're chasing a Stone Smart performance. And we had a Schoonmaker performance, and we've had a Brenton Strange game, and we had 3 weeks of Otten. And like
we've had a Calcaterra game.
Yes. Yeah. Calcutta. Yeah, we had a Grant Calcaterra touchdown. Like chasing that as opposed to looking for the next one, I think is the difference.
So you have the next one. Though.
I have the next one.
That's great news.
And it will be revealed
after our
in
waivers run.
50 minutes.
All right.
Jointhefoot.com is the community. We want to give a shout out to everybody over there supporting the show. You get access to all of our premium tools. You get access to an extra episode every week. And we moved to a 2 shows a week schedule once the season's over, up through the NFL draft and into June. But if you want an extra episode every single week and you want to support this show, if we brought some value to you can go to jointhefoot.com. That's just one of the perks there. We just recently pulled all the advertising and banner ads and stuff off the site for all members so they can have a better browsing experience. And our team is working really hard to upgrade the app, which is brand new this year, the in-season app. There's a lot of tools and resources that we try to bring a lot of value there.
Yeah,
and we appreciate everybody that is on board.
For sure, and it's worth reminding people, like, we do go to 2 shows a week, but we don't go away. So stick with us through the off season. There are awesome shows. A lot of times we hear that people found us in the off season with like the Truth of series that we do, the Truth of wide receivers, Truth of running backs. So we get into that early after the season wraps up to make sure we're not a little bit too zoomed in on certain weeks and certain performances, but
certain emotions.
Yeah. Try to get it right.
So, yeah, so we'll break it down. We got a lot going on. Let's jump into that news.
News and notes from around the league, presented by USAA Insurance.
Well, I mentioned it. Hayden Hurst coming back tonight against the Broncos. So Stone Smart is not a smart play at this point with Hayden Hurst, a higher depth chart tight end, coming back.
Yeah, Stone dumb. Ha!
Oh, I did get word Mike might be back by the offseason too.
Oh, that's true.
Because we were talking about
great.
the offseason, we might get him back. No, he might be back tomorrow. We'll see.
Hope he's back tomorrow. He's the shame.
And now he might not be, now that you reminded him of that. Sincere McCormick was placed on IR. Goodbye, Sincere. We will miss you. Aiden O'Connell returned to a full practice on Wednesday. He had no practices last week. Seems like Aiden O'Connell should be back. That's good news for Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers.
Yeah, those two guys go from pretty much – well, Brock at tight end, you're going to play him no matter what. But Jacoby goes from not playable to probably should be played.
Isaac Guerrero did not practice on Wednesday. This was news because that was not the injury he missed practice for the week before.
Yeah, right now he's listed with both foot and hamstring, so obviously a little bit banged up. The matchup against Miami, they're kind of middle of the pack. Are you going Taylor? Are you prepping if you have Guerrero?
I'm prepping, yeah, but it's not a good feeling because I mean Taylor had 0 opportunities last week when Guerrero finally played. So that would be the guy we would imagine, but it could be Keyshawn Vaughn, it could be Israel Abanikanda.
Pivot, so, he's injured in not a great matchup. Maybe he's inactive, and we're saying, okay, is it Taylor? Is it Izzy? Do you just go with someone like a Jacoby Myers?
Yeah, or Thielen.
Yeah.
Or Jalen McMillan. Yeah, I would play all those. Jalen Waddle didn't practice with the knee, probably not playing. Geno Smith did return to a full practice. That was big news.
Great news.
We did get breaking news yesterday. Zach Charbonnet did not practice. He's dealing with an oblique injury. Kenneth Walker still not practicing with the calf.
It's a Wednesday. It's a Wednesday, and Charbonnet's obviously been getting the work without Walker there. So I'm not going to overreact to him not practicing on a Wednesday. If he doesn't practice on Thursday, I'll start saying uh-oh.
Yeah, it just makes me a little nervous right now. Baker Mayfield with a knee. He's been limited or not practicing on Wednesdays. But Cade Otton also has a knee injury because if you put a tight end on my team, he will get hurt. He will get hurt immediately.
Thank you for getting rid of Jonnu then. You gave the people
I did. I kept him
some freedom.
Healthy. Brenton Strange, AC joint sprain, supposed to be ready for the game on Sunday. So we'll see. We've heard that before with Evan Ingram, and he got thrown on IR. So we'll monitor those two tight ends. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I guess we got this in here. He signed with the Saints practice squad.
He's going to maybe play football, but I think the important news here is not Clyde Edwards-Helaire related. It's Alvin Kamara related. So if they're going out and they're signing someone, signing Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it just gives me even more heebie-jeebies on a Monday Night Football game for Kamara actually starting. And Kamara is such an exceptionally important piece. If you have Kamara, you made the playoffs. That's like, he was such a good pick, and then he helped in round one. Either you had the bye or he helped you get through it with that, touchdown. So this is a really important piece of round 2 playoffs, and people have to figure out what they're going to pivot off of Kamara. I would try to move him to your flex and get someone else in there in case he doesn't play.
Yeah, don't ride dirty into Monday night just hoping he's going to be out there. You need to either play somebody Sunday or have news that he's going to play, or have somebody that you can pivot in there for sure. So that was today's news and notes presented by USAA Insurance. Learn more at usaa.com/insurance.
Starts of the week.
Well, Jason, it starts of the week time, and you're probably playing the guys that brought you to where you're at, but there are also decisions to be made. People with committee quarterback situations where you've been bouncing players back and forth. So I wanted to throw my endorsement behind Jordan Love this week on Monday night in that exact Alvin Kamara game. I think it's going to be a better than average week for Jordan Love at home against New Orleans, where the Saints have struggled tremendously against quarterbacks in passing yards allowed. And, Jordan Love has not been a difference maker for you this year. We've had that segment every week. Jordan Love's not been a difference maker. I do think he is going to be better than expected this week.
Yeah, you look at the last month, 15 fantasy points, 19 fantasy points, 15 fantasy points, 17 fantasy points. He's not disappearing or playing poorly, but he's not having great fantasy points primarily because of touchdowns. All those games, they're scoring 30 points. And so Josh Jacobs is really the kryptonite here to Jordan Love's fantasy success. But you think the touchdowns come in this through the air?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jordan Love gets it done on Monday night. I think 202 with high upside, and I think the potential is there. So I think it'll be a better than average game for Jordan Love. The matchup is really good.
All righty, I am going with Jaden Daniels, probably one of the most asked and talked about quarterbacks this week. Jaden Daniels has been awesome. He's gotten you to this point, and the scare is we saw Jaden Daniels play this Philadelphia Eagles defense a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, and he was really, really bad. You had 13 fantasy points, and that was thanks to a late Ertz garbage time touchdown. So I get being scared. I really do. But since then, he's been the quarterback 1, the quarterback 3, the quarterback 7. He also was not healthy in that game. He was not fully what he is now. His scrambling, I don't know if you know this, Andy. He is on pace for the most scrambles of all time. So that was kind of absent in that Philly game. I believe that Jaden Daniels, if I have him on my roster, I'm going to start him. I'm going to put him out there, and I actually think he has a good game. This is a really unstoppable type of player. You can't always get him in the backfield, and his weapons with Terry McLaurin, I'm not scared off of the matchup. This is one of the top 3 quarterbacks in fantasy football. You're in the second round of the playoffs. If you got here with him, I'm playing him.
If you wonder for a moment and you're listening and saying, well, who wouldn't play Jaden Daniels? The answer is tons of you who are asking. Like the 6th most popular start-sit question, and we get thousands and thousands every week, is Jaden Daniels or Kyler Murray? It's Jaden Daniels, bad matchup. Kyler Murray, good matchup.
Yeah.
Projected points are similar, but Carolina gives up 7 points more per week to the quarterback position than the Eagles do.
It's enticing.
And so there is a fear there. And for good reason. The Philadelphia defense, like if you had Brian Robinson, and let me put it this way, Jason does not have Brian Robinson as the start of the week.
No.
Because that kind of a player is probably not overcoming that kind of a defense to the degree that you need in the semifinal matchup. But there are Jordan Love, Jaden Daniels decisions, Kyler Murray, Jaden Daniels decisions, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if Josh Allen was playing the Eagles, I don't think you'd have a question.
Kyle, your start-sit decision this week is who?
It's your 2 starts of the week.
It's Jordan Love and Jaden Daniels.
Yesterday I said I think I would go Love over Daniels, but then Jason I think when we talked through it, it persuaded me to bump Daniels a little bit ahead. And there is an emotional piece. Like, who do you want to have made the mistake with? You know, like if you put Jaden Daniels on your bench and he has a vintage game and you lose because you pivoted away out of kind of overanalyzing the situation, I think that's harder to live with. I think if you go down with your superstar, it's easier.
Yeah.
Jordan Love was my quarterback. Jerome Ford is my running back start of the week. He was the RB10 on 9 opportunities last week. IR for Nick Chubb. He's had big plays. He had a 62-yard run. He's had some bigger ones. Last year he had 3 over 60 yards. This year he's had a number of over 30-yard runs. He's going to get 15-plus touches. Cincinnati is not intimidating. They just gave up 3 touchdowns to Pollard and Spears last week. I mean, they are, if you zoom in even more on the strength of schedule, they're even worse against running backs. 31st in schedule-adjusted fantasy points given up to running backs. This is a tough one for players because Ford's probably been on your bench. You probably didn't play him last week, and it's a decision-making process now to flex him in versus somebody else at, you know, an Adam Thielen in the, you know, a Jerry Jeudy in the same game where Judy's been great, but now you have DTR. I'm going Ford.
What if Garindo is active?
Ford.
Okay, so that I think that's a perfect, you know, grab off the waivers, put it in your flex over a questionable other option. Ford should have enough volume to have a safe floor. The question is, will he have the chance at a touchdown with DTR? Hopefully. The Cincinnati Bengals, they love giving up touchdowns. My running backs for start of the week, first of all, the start of the week is James Conner. James Conner was the running back 1 last week. Carolina is such a good matchup. You've got a banged-up Trey Benson. James Conner should eat. Congratulations if you have him.
Oh, thanks.
My my other start of the week is Breece Hall. Breece Hall has been – I mean, there's no secret here. I am not the biggest fan of the Breece Hall experience. I do think this is a –
Yeah, you paid a ticket for that ride, and you didn't have a good time.
Yeah, no, I threw up.
No.
I threw up.
Your seat restraint didn't even work.
Yeah, the vomit just came right back in my face. We were right on the loop-de-loop part, and I threw up. But you know what? I got off, I took a shower, and I'm willing to try it again.
Oh, no, you're not.
I am. Well, I'm not because he has knocked me out of the playoffs wherever I have him. However, I do think Breece Hall is a good play this week, not just because he can't hurt me and so he's going to go nuclear. We talked about the running back schedule for a long time for the Jets, the playoff weeks and how good they should be for Breece Hall. He got a touchdown last week. He is healthier this week than he was last week. Zach Rosenblatt was tweeting out that he's further along with his injury than Braylon Allen is. So, you know, if you've actually got Braylon Allen a little bit banged up, you got the Rams allowing the 5th most rushing yards per game. The matchup is good. He should see 15-plus touches at home. Good chance to get in the end zone. There's a good over-under. I think Breece Hall's a good start this week.
Real decisions for people with Breece Hall. Breece Hall or Calvin Ridley against Indianapolis?
I'd go Breece.
Breece Hall or Khalil Shakir against New England?
I would go Breece.
Okay. That's what I'm doing currently before you even said any of this. Those are the decisions I have in a semifinal matchup. It's a tough one. Breece Hall, the burns have been real.
I mean, we shouldn't be he shouldn't be allowed to be in starts of the week.
I don't think very many – remember you've been saying like people with Kamara, people with Gibbs, they're in the playoffs?
Yeah.
You might not be talking to many people with Breece Hall.
Well, that's why I've got James Conner out there.
Yeah, no, and Conner has a chance at going – well, he has a chance of doing a couple things. He was the RB1 last week, could be again this week with Carolina dead last against everything against the run. You didn't even mention Trey Benson, Amari DiMarcado, both hurt for Arizona.
I did.
You did mention that?
I mentioned Benson. I didn't go all the way down to DiMarcado.
But you're saying, look, he could be the number 1 again, and he will be after this week. Like, he's playing in this game, right?
Yeah,
he's
healthy.
Will,
yep. So he's just got to do 2 more weeks to finish
this
the season.
week and next week? Or 2, you're saying including week 18?
Yeah, it's got to be
Do we care about
week.
that part?
Yes.
Just give me a fantasy season. I
mean, I don't care, but when we say he's never played a full season, if he misses week 18, he still has never played a full season.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Where are we at? Wide receiver? JSN versus MIN, Minnesota. JSN this week is my start of the week. Regardless of whether Geno is back and 100% or it's Sam Howell flinging it around, he is leading the NFL in slot receptions by a lot. Like, he is the premier slot receiver in the NFL. He has 70. The next closest 52 by Khalil Shakir. Last year CeeDee Lamb led the NFL with 69 receptions in the slot. This is where he belongs, and he's been a difference maker for your fantasy team. He's on pace for just a record-breaking season for JSN, and he's made Metcalf look like a questionable dynasty situation right now. And you don't have a choice against Minnesota. You got to throw against them. He is both a big play potential type of guy, a yak guy, but also a really helpful volume play. So I'll go JSN.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors going to Atlanta. I just talked about it on the Dynasty podcast that came out yesterday, which is easy to do. But Malik Neighbors is on pace for the most targets and receptions ever for a rookie.
That's good.
He missed 2 games. Like, that's the – I mean, he is the – so it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. You could put out Tommy Cutlets. You could put out Drew – anybody. I don't even care. Boyle, who cares? Just throw the ball to Malik Neighbors. Everyone's going to. Atlanta's defense is straight diaper gravy. They are 30th in schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, dead last in receiving touchdowns allowed to wide receivers. Malik Neighbors absolutely needs to be in your lineup. If you're wavering,
if you have confidence problems because of the quarterback, you're saying don't worry about it.
Yeah, because Malik Neighbors has the ability to do what you need in playoffs, which is to go nuclear.
Sam Laporta is my tight end start of the week. Last week, 8 targets for Sam Laporta. Let's not forget what he's capable of. 7 for 111. Been a top 12 tight end 3 straight weeks. The usage has gone up. David Montgomery is gone. And I think Sam Laporta's role in this offense is going to become more necessary, has become more necessary, facing a Bears defense that has struggled. Have confidence in Sam Laporta in a week where some of us are really scrambling for the tight end position.
Yeah, and I'm going to give people confidence in a player that I've seen the questions you've had them, like when you're talking, do I keep rolling Travis Kelce or do I go to the waiver wire? And I'm going to keep rolling Travis Kelce. The last month has been a rough stretch for Kelce. 4 straight games outside the top 12, but he hasn't goosed the way that a lot of these waiver wire tight ends can. And also during that stretch, he has a 23% target share and the 3rd most targets among tight ends. He's getting the passes thrown his way. The matchup here is pretty darn good. Over the last 6 weeks, you've got the Texans, who are 30th in schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed to tight ends, allowing 3.8 more per game than the player's average. The Chiefs are kind of in this weird must-win mode to keep that bye week, to keep that number 1 seed. And I think that the quarterback, Mahomes is hurt. Maybe he won't be as mobile, assuming he plays because he's practicing in full, or maybe he doesn't play and it's Carson Wentz. Either way, I think Kelce becomes even more important to this offense. He's that safety blanket where maybe Mahomes isn't as mobile and doesn't have time to extend the plays. He's going to be looking to Kelce, I think, early and often in this matchup.
I have some starts of the week for Mike here. I don't know if you knew this. At quarterback, he's going Trey Lance this week.
Okay, that makes sense. On brand.
Running back, he's running a vintage player here. Jeremy Hill.
Oh, the tattoo.
Jeremy Hill is his
That's
running
his
back.
Chest tattoo.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then at wide receiver, he's actually rolling Antonio Brown out there.
Always a good idea. One of the goats.
CTE energy. And then at tight end, he's going Blake Jarwin.
I am shocked he didn't go Adam Troutman. I am really – I mean, I know he's a Blake Jarwin guy, but, I mean, the Troutman.
He did catch a touchdown last week, right?
I don't know.
We don't know.
Cares?
We don't know. All right, let's move on. We'll jump into the forecast here after a break. Jason, is there a you've got your league with Mike, the Dino Junior League. You've got your matchup this week against Schneider here in the office.
Yeah.
Is there a player, because I think everybody's got a name on their rosters, is there a player on your roster that you're like, I'm not winning without this guy doing something this week? Is there
I would say I'm not going to win. It's the combo. It's ironic. They just both went off. But my old men, Mike Evans and Devontae Adams, that combo, they're gonna lead us to another championship. Which means
it's up to the old men.
Yeah, it's up to the old men.
Yeah, last week, if you could just repeat that, that'd be cool.
Yeah, just print it 2 more times. Print that script.
And if there's anything old men are known for, it's being able to just keep the same.
Keep it going later in life, down the stretch, late in the season. Yeah.
I just love the way we talk about fantasy players.
They're
so
so
these
old. Young
old.
super athletes.
They're so old. Have you anybody here watched the Aaron Rodgers Netflix special yet? Anybody? I doubt it, but
I have not.
People shaking their heads.
No one's paid me $1 million yet.
Okay. Interesting clips coming out of that thing. You should. I'm gonna tune in. I've seen bits and pieces so far, but I think it talks about Favre and the transition, how horrible it was for Aaron Rodgers. It shows a lot of the stuff with him and Jordan Love, and it has their head coach out there talking about that relationship. I thought maybe somebody had seen.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. He gave you lots of good memories there in Green Bay, mister.
There was a window of good times with Aaron Rodgers.
Very, very good times. All right, let's jump in.
It's time for Fantasy Forecast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook.
All right, 2 Saturday games this week. Oh, boy. Saturday games, Sunday games, Monday games. Here we go. Houston, 9-5. The Chiefs are 13-1. Kansas City at home, still 3.5-point favorites. Over-unders 42. I don't think they'd be 3.5-point favorites if Vegas had any inkling that Patrick Mahomes would be missing this game. Kansas City with a 2-game lead in the AFC playoff picture for the bye, which is, that's a prize. And
for sure.
Buffalo is going to win their next 3 games. That is going to happen. They're going to end 14-3. So Kansas City plays Houston. It's a big one. Houston could put themselves in position this week to move into the 3 seed, or at least have that opportunity.
Kansas City down the stretch plays Houston, then Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, and then Denver in Denver.
Yeah, those are all games they could lose.
This is why this game feels, pretty important. And the nice thing for the Houston Texans is that they might not have as much to play for depending on the outcome of the Steelers-Ravens game. And they're both Saturday, but the Steelers-Ravens game is after theirs. So this is full motivation for both teams in the Texans-Chiefs matchup.
So we haven't really seen what I would call, watchable, consistent, exciting offensive football from Houston. I just feel like there's...
Or the Chiefs. I thought you were going to say the Chiefs. I mean, this looked like a game on paper when they were making the schedule. They put this Saturday, Christmas week type of game, and they were like the Texans versus the Chiefs, Stroud versus Mahomes. This is going to be a 53-point over/under game. Such an important matchup. And while it's important, neither team has played fun to watch football.
Yeah, the Texans have. C.J. Stroud has 1 game over 20 fantasy points. So there isn't the, Aaron Rodgers last week had a big fantasy week. Like, C.J. Stroud's not giving you those games here and there. Is this game super simple from the Houston side? Is it Joe Mixon and Nico Collins and log out?
That is. I don't think
Nico's line is 80.5.
Yeah, Nico is as sure a thing as it gets. Joe Mixon is a tough matchup. Kansas City is really, really good against running backs, and
I think a lot of people are going to be like your Jaden Daniels situation. Mixon will be that Jaden Daniels for them at running back, where they're nervous about the injury and the start.
Yeah, I'm more nervous about Joe Mixon than Jaden Daniels because of the injury. It was like when Jaden Daniels was wearing the flak jacket last time around, and he was injured. He didn't have a good game. So Joe Mixon is a little bit scary. Maybe you're on a stud loaded team where you can move away from him, but I see him as a high-end RB2. Nico is in every lineup, and then you're done. You're not playing with anything else. You said it. 1 game above 20 points for C.J. Stroud. Now, on the other side, Patrick Mahomes, 2 games above 20 fantasy points on the season. This is what I'm talking about. There's not a lot of pieces here you really, really want. Also, I think there's some confusion. Like Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, it seemed like it was done 2 weeks ago, where it was like, okay, all the work started going to Pacheco, and it seemed like this past week would be when Pacheco you can confidently have him in there as the locked and loaded starter. And then both players got 13 carries last week.
And he didn't do much with the 32 yards on the ground for Pacheco. His 3 games since returning, running back 47, 31, 39. I would be trying really hard not to play him. I mean, the Houston defensive line is a tough one. They're a top 10 over the last 6 weeks. They're top 5 on the season. You know, Jalen McMillan in the flex or Pacheco. I'm probably going McMillan with more upside.
Yeah, I think that.
I mean, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one, but I don't blame you for looking. That's the level of players you're talking about.
Ramondre, you'd play over Pacheco, right?
I would definitely play Ramondre. Najee for
Ford.
sure. Ford for sure. Yeah, I mean that's the level that you're out right now. And really, what wide receivers are you confident in?
None.
Hollywood Brown is going to be making his debut. He should be active for this game, and I don't expect him to be someone you're starting, but he can siphon a few targets away from DeAndre Hopkins or Juju Smith-Schuster. Really, like, I think Kelsey's like the only playable
Worthy
guy on
is the
Chiefs.
emergency flex. Xavier Worthy is the emergency flex
Just
because
for upside, breakaway touchdowns.
Yeah, and I think his role is defined in the offense, whereas Juju and Hopkins and Hollywood and Watson and those guys are going to rotate through. Worthy seems to have more consistent snaps, and you know you're talking about him not being able to move. Screen game with Worthy, 11 targets last week was a high for him. He's been playing over 80% of snaps, which is an uptick for him. So. Yeah. That'd be the dart throw to me. Well, I'm not trying to play him.
We saw it with Rashee Rice last year. The rookie was more involved down the stretch. They hit a point when it was like, okay, now we've had good plays from him, and we have had good plays from Xavier Worthy. And we had that from Rashee Rice, but he wasn't on the field all the time. And then they made that transition. So hopefully it's just weird timing with Hollywood coming back to be like maybe the transition will stick.
So for an exciting game for the playoff picture and for the teams and the records, it's not necessarily standing out as a bunch of fantasy options beyond, a lot of confidence in Nico, your confidence in Kelsey, and then Joe Mixon has to play for you because Joe Mixon's been that good.
Yep.
The other Saturday game is Pittsburgh-Baltimore. That's fun too. I mean, Pittsburgh's 10-4, Baltimore 9-5.
It would be so much more fun with George Pickens. Like George Pickens is everything to me in this game.
If you have a Baltimore Raven, you want Pickens.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The whole game, the over/under, sitting there at a perfectly aligned 45 points, where it's like teetering on. It could be good, it could be bad.
Baltimore 6.5-point favorites on DraftKings. Pittsburgh won this game 18-16, and we need more points than that. In Week 11, that was the matchup. We need more points.
We do, and I don't know that you're going to get it if right now, I mean, it's early in the week, but George Pickens did not participate in practice Tuesday or Wednesday with the hamstring injury. You also have some weather concerns, temperatures in the 30s, 15-mile-an-hour sustained winds. So if the Steelers aren't able to put up points, which they have struggled to do so without George Pickens because they don't have another option. Calvin Austin, Mike Williams, they're not good enough.
You need to be able to hit a big play or two to flip the field.
Yeah, so without George Pickens, I worry for just about everyone not named Derrick Henry in this game.
Including Lamar Jackson?
A little bit.
I'm a lot less worried about Lamar than I'd be worried about Henry.
I'm not worried about Lamar. Like, I'm never going to bench him. But I think his upside becomes a little bit capped because if they're up, I mean they're almost a touchdown favorite in this game.
The Derrick Henry experience, he's only got one top 10 finish in the last 5 weeks, and it was number 9 overall. So for a player that had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight weeks in the early part of the year, it has kind of shifted. And you've seen Lamar. He came out the week before last, said I got to run more.
Mm-hmm.
He went out and he ran more last week.
Made Mama proud.
And T.J. Watt not practicing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hear what I'm not saying. Lamar Jackson is locked in. He has been so good. I'm just saying the Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews. Like, I want the tide to raise all ships here, and I just don't know if the Steelers will be able to keep up.
25-19 is the implied point totals for the matchup. Najee Harris's rushing line is 47. If you had Najee Harris and Mixon, you're going Mixon?
Yeah.
That's not close, right?
No, I would go with the guy that got you here who's
Madison
been
or Harris?
unbelievable. Alexander Madison or Najee, I would go Najee.
Okay. Zay Flowers' receiving line is 61.5. He is always pretty much their leader in total receptions, but if you look at the last 5 weeks, it's a little bit like he is due for a touchdown maybe. I mean, you could say that, but his line is.
Yeah, Bateman keeps hogging him.
Yeah, Bateman with the big plays. Mark Andrews catching a lot of touchdowns. 7 top 10 finishes since week 6. The Muth has been Luth for 3 straight games. If there's no Pickens, I think Freiermuth is fine. I mean, he's been a top 10 tight end 3 straight weeks. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. No, I think Freiermuth, I mean, is necessary without Pickens, and you could do worse than that. Is that the guy on the waivers?
Nope.
Okay. So I'm going to find him.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so little update here. Looks like Rappaport was talking this morning that it seems like Pickens will miss this week. Still early enough in the week, but keep in mind this is a Saturday game, so I guess it's not as early. You know, missing the Wednesday practice, which you don't usually care about, actually isn't quite the same.
All right, ready to talk about some Sunday matchups, Mr. Moore?
Yeah. Let's talk about a super fun one.
Like the Giants-Falcons?
Yeah.
Giants are 2-12, battling for that number 1 spot. Atlanta 7-7. If there was ever a time you'd want to give your rookie quarterback an opportunity, this is a good matchup. When you're 8.5-point favorites, even with him, Michael Penix will get the start. The over/under is just 42, and the dawn of the Penix era.
Did you hear where Michael Penix was? What was going on?
Was he at Costco?
He was at Costco about to get a hot dog.
A hot dog?
And he decided against it.
Why did he decide against it?
He wasn't hungry anymore. Now, I don't know if this is like, oh, man, I shouldn't eat a hot dog.
As in because he found out he's starting?
Yeah, I don't
know
if
he
he
got nervous.
Maybe. I don't know if it was nerves or just responsibility.
Remember when you used to eat a lot of food before you played in games?
Oh, I would. I needed my Subway meatball
sub
foot long.
Yeah, and
that was my fuel for football.
I remember a double burger before a basketball game.
That one was a bad idea.
You did vomit a lot.
I did vomit. But I will say this: when you're playing an offensive lineman, big meals are much more okay than when you're playing basketball.
That's fair.
Don't do the big meal
Jason
before basketball.
disappeared during warm-ups for a while. Over the last 4 games, Atlanta has been 31st in pass rate over expectation. They were trying to keep the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands. What does this really mean for start-sit decisions? Like Bijan, you're playing his DK rushing and receiving line is 114.5.
Yeah, Bijan, I think is pretty neutral. At first, I thought, well, he takes a tick down, but I believe that they're going to ease Michael Penix in. This is his first game in his NFL career. He's also coming off of an injury, so this is a rookie making his debut, and I don't, you saw that with Bo Nix. Bo Nix now is allowed to throw it more and look more, but early in the season, they ran the ball more. They protected him a little bit more. They eased him in. You saw that with Jaden Daniels as well. So this first game, I don't expect high-flying, great passing from Michael Penix, which scares me with Mooney, who goosed last week.
London?
He's someone that's out. London, to me, is still startable. London is going to be the number 1 target for the team, or just is the primary pecking order, and and he's a star. He's an elite athlete that I think can do stuff on his own. So Drake London to me he's a wide receiver 2 this week. Not some teams might be able to move on without him, but I would be starting him.
Malik Neighbors was your start of the week. His reception line's 5.5.
On the course of the season, the Falcons are 32nd against wide receivers. But if you look at the last 6 weeks, they are 32nd against wide receivers. If you adjust for schedule, they are dead last against wide receivers. So, yeah, go ahead and throw up Malik Neighbors, no problem. Tyrone Tracy's a question.
Drew Lock is going to start in this one? Is that what we're hearing?
That is what I have last heard.
Yeah, Drew Lock is going to start. Tyrone Tracy is a nerve-wracking start that I'm trying not to make. If I'm in a semifinal, that's a wild card I'm very scared about.
Yeah,
It's a good rush defense. Locke did not. I mean, the opportunities should be there. He should have more than 10.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunities will be there. That's one of the nice things about Tyrone Tracy.
You could probably go back to him or Najee.
I'd go Najee.
42-point over-under. The Giants only projected for 16 points, so you're really hoping that Tracy is part of that 16.
That he has the one touchdown?
Yeah.
Let me see here. So let's just look. Drew Lock started 2 games, played the full games in weeks 13 and 14. In weeks 13 and 14, Tyrone Tracy, and this is kind of exactly what I expect him to have, which is a fine start. He was the running back 17 and the running back 13 fantasy points. Well, I mean, you could do worse than that in the flex.
That's great. Yeah, that's
16
fine.
Fantasy points. One of those games was the 10-target game in the passing game. So it's not a great matchup. I don't think I'm not bullish on him by any means, but I don't think you have to bench him from a volume standpoint.
We'll take a break. We'll jump into some more matchups. All right, Jason. Detroit is 12-2. The Bears are 4-10. It's in Chicago. The DraftKings Sportsbook line, Detroit minus 6.5. The over-under is 48. It was a 23-20 Thanksgiving Day game last time these two played. Detroit ended up on top. That was the insanity at the end of the Eberflus timeout conundrum. Detroit has 10 significant defenders on IR.
It's unbelievable. Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, Carlton Davis, Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, Broderick Martin, Khalil Dorsey, Melifonwu, Emmanuel Mosley. Their defense is gone. And now they lost David Montgomery. So some of their identity on the offensive side, now they've still got the same offensive line, and Gibbs can more than, handle that load for a couple of games. But I do think that their identity might shift a little bit. This might be a team that has to throw the ball a little bit more as the defense gives up a little bit more.
Well, I talked about Laporta. I like Laporta's opportunity in this game. You've seen Tim Patrick more involved. You've seen Jamison Williams be really hot and cold.
Tim Patrick is actually kind of interesting. It's hard to recommend starting him in the second round of your playoffs, but you look the last 2 weeks, 7 targets, 8 targets, a touchdown in each game, 2 in one of them. This is a team that's going to score points, and he has been on the field, 66% of snaps last week, up to 81% of snaps, caught the touchdown with 8 targets. So he is mildly interesting in like a break glass emergency case. I mean, I guess that's not true, because I would probably start Adam Thielen over him. And if you're that low,
you're just interested in seeing what happens.
Yeah, maybe he's more of like a DFS dart throw.
Jahmyr Gibbs has a rushing and receiving yard line that is 127.5.
Yes, I was looking at all of his lines this morning. We'll talk about that, but his expectation is wonderful.
Well, Chicago's a terrible run D. The game script lends itself towards, they're 6.5-point road favorites despite the injuries, because Chicago just can't get it done on offense in any sort of consistent way.
Certainly not consistent. They get it done on offense from time to time.
And often in the second half.
I was going to say, and that's not like this game versus that game. That's this quarter versus the other 3 quarters of this game.
Honestly, if you're playing players in this game, you're excited that Detroit's beat up on defense.
Oh, for sure.
You want more opportunities for Goff to throw the football, because he's had some big games.
I actually think that the weapons on the Chicago side are not that bad. Like Caleb Williams
to play?
Yeah, to play. Like DJ Moore, I think, is a fine play. Caleb Williams is not someone I'm starting in single quarterback leagues, but he's a guy that in your Superflex leagues, I'd be throwing him in as that quarterback too, over some other names that might feel better. I mean, we saw this matchup in Detroit a couple weeks ago. Caleb Williams was the quarterback 6, threw 3 touchdowns, over 250 yards. The defense is even further banged up than it was then. So Keenan Allen, I would play, in a flex way. DJ Moore, you probably should play. His receiving yard line is 60.5 yards.
I think they'll score 3 times. I think there'll be 3 touchdowns on the Chicago side. So wherever your conviction is on those players, maybe it's a Swift and then a couple wideout situations. Komet's not really involved. Yeah, I think this game could be pretty fun.
Yeah,
I think that one could be more fun. You hope the weather's fine. You know Jared Goff doesn't like the weather.
It's going to be very, very chilly.
It'll be cold.
It's going to be out. The winds look like, I mean, it's early right now, 10-mile-an-hour winds, which is not a big deal. You could throw through that. It's really 15 is that breaking
Tell
point.
that to Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. Well, Caleb Williams' arm is a little bit stronger than Kirk Cousins.
The Browns are 3-11. They take on the 6-8 fighting for their lives Cincinnati Bengals. The DraftKings Sportsbook line, Cincinnati heavy favorites, 7.5 points. The over-under's 47. The spread didn't change with the news that DTR was going to be the starter because Jameis Winston had been playing so poorly that the Browns are putting in a player they know will play poorly. That's really where you're at. This is very similar to the Levis-Mason Rudolph. The Titans know Mason Rudolph is not a good quarterback. And yet Will Levis has put them in a position where if you're getting poor quarterback play, they just are tired of the turnovers, which I don't know if that goes away with DTR.
I don't think it goes away, man. I think the turnovers go down with Rudolph. I don't know that they probably go down with DTR because they won't have him throw the ball 45 times. But this feels like a team in the Browns that are ready for the draft.
Burrow, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins are your locks on the Cincinnati side. Not a lot of question marks there. You know, Mike Gesicki is always tempting for tight end starts, but he plays 30% of the snaps, and it's terrifying.
And you don't I worry with this game when DTR wasn't made the starter. It really, you know, our champ league, and the name I almost brought up instead of my old man combo of Mike Evans and Devontae Adams is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's the guy I need, and he's been so unbelievably great. But when Jameis was the quarterback on the other side of the ball,
you were stoked.
Holy Joe Burrow. I was ready for that 50-point burger in this game to just go insane and Jerry Jeudy to be, you know, the wide receiver 3 on the week. With DTR there, they might not need – I mean, this is great maybe for Chase Brown with a huge lead. You know, his DK rush and receiving line is, 108.5 yards?
That's not that far behind Gibbs.
But I worry that Joe Burrow won't have to do much.
They played last when it was Watson, not Winston, and it was 21-14, and Burrow was the quarterback 17. So that'd be the fear. But they should be able to, you know, you just hope Burrow gets it done early in this game, and that the defense, Cincinnati, which is a streaming play this week, they don't score 2 times for you and hurt your offense.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy, I think, is one of the biggest question marks.
I think he's the biggest one. Maybe the biggest one on the week.
Is
that what you're going to say?
That's just what I was going to say. He is, because he's been unstoppable. He has gotten people to the playoffs, and I know in the league that I have him in, I had the bye week. I've made the decision to start Jerry Jeudy this week. His receiving line is 60.5. He's clearly the one for this team. I don't think Cedric Tillman comes back from concussion protocol. I don't think David Njoku does either. This is a team that, like I said, I think this is a team getting ready for the draft. When they made the transition to DTR, I think they are saying we're done with this season. I really believe that was
DTR to DUN.
Yes, exactly.
So Jerry Jeudy, though, with the receiving line, with the fact he's the only show in town,
exactly, and the fact
he can take a little underneath, and
that the Bengals are not a good defense.
Shakir or Jeudy?
Jeudy.
Ridley or Jeudy?
Jeudy.
Yeah, okay.
Ridley's closer.
The Rams are 8-6. Jets are 4-10. Difference makers. I talked about my belief that the Jets, with Aaron Rodgers, it just came out that he's getting healthier. I think you can see that on the field. He ran for 45 yards last week. The DK line here, Los Angeles -3. The over-under is 46.5. That's not a big line, considering the records of the teams
and the recency of the teams. Like if you look at the Rams, you know, they've won 4 of their last 5 games.
7-2 since the bye.
They beat Buffalo. You know, this is a team that has been playing good ball.
We have been debating the Rodgers versus Stafford if you needed a second quarterback, super flex, emergency start. Amazingly, their passing yards prop is the same.
Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding me?
244.5, which is high.
Wow.
But I don't mind either one. And I told you, I think of them identically, and then we get where the line is the same. So that's how I see it. I mean, either player, look, what do you have? 2 quarterbacks that can have a game but don't often. with 2 elite wide receivers for both. Adams and Wilson have been playing well, two top 12s.
And they're both supposed to have a great running back.
Yeah. Are you forgiving?
One of them does.
Yeah. Are you forgiving Cooper Kupp?
Oh, yes. Cooper Kupp, it was almost my start of the week. This is a guy that needs to be – I mean, the reason I didn't make him my start of the week is because I think a lot of people who have him aren't in the playoffs anymore. It might be a little bit too irrelevant. But if you got through the Cooper Kupp, which you did, you had him in 3 different leagues in the playoffs.
And 2 of them I got through.
And you got through it in 2. I am 100% forgiving Cooper Kupp. I mean, the Jets are a matchup you want. This is I mean, you ignore it completely.
It kind of feels like this one's pretty easy then because both of the wideouts on both sides are playing.
Yep.
Adams has been on fire. Garrett Wilson's receiving line is 73.
Ooh, that's nice.
And then Kyron Williams getting it done. Breece Hall, you have – I mean, that's – to me, it's – I don't have start of the week conviction like you do because I didn't like how often I saw him on the field last week. And the fact he's missing time due to injury, I am much more of a pump the brakes there. Still finished at running back 20, but it was 48% of the snaps, and I think it'll be similar this week, and I think that's because of Isaiah Davis.
Yeah, I mean, Isaiah Davis will get a little bit more work, but I love the fact that Braylon Allen is banged up right now. That Braylon
Wow, what a mean guy. You love the fact he's hurt, huh?
That came out wrong. For Breece Hall, one of the things that gives me confidence is that I am not confident that Braylon Allen's going to be able to be on the field.
No,
so
that's a good point.
Isaiah Davis has been he's looked really good, and he's been playing 40-50% of the snaps. But Breece Hall is further removed from his injury. I think that these last couple weeks against the Rams, against Buffalo, if you made it through, if you have Breece, I think he's going to take you to a championship.
Philadelphia is 12-2. The Commanders 9-5. This is one of the big games of the week. DK Sportsbook line Philly -3.5. The over/under is 45.5. And is this the get right game for Saquon from what you've been dealing with? His line is 98.5 rushing yards. The offensive line for Philly, unbelievable. The defensive line for Washington, awful. It feels like a Saquon game to me. That's the headline of this one to me is it feels like this is a game that Saquon should be able to set the tone.
I worry about the injury. He was clearly not the same after getting banged up last week, and he's on pace to break the all-time rushing record, which is kind of a big one. When you've got like decades-long records that you can break, he's going to get the volume and the opportunity. I just hope he is healthy. If he's healthy, you're 100% right. It should be a massive Saquon Barkley game. That's where you can beat the Commanders' defense a little bit better. They're top 10 against quarterbacks, against wide receivers, but middle of the pack against running backs.
And dead last against when it comes to adjusted yards before contact, where Philly's offense gives Saquon the most yards before contact.
It's a really nice O-line, D-line matchup for the Eagles.
Jaden Daniels, you've talked about him in the start of the week. He is a player that there's a lot of fear in the fantasy world this week.
I love watching Jaden Daniels play, unless I'm playing against him, and I hate it so much. When you watch him play, he gives you confidence and peace so often. And
you did spend a lot of last week saying he's so good. He's so good.
And so it's one of those things where, you're going to be watching these games, playoffs on the line. Play the player that's like really good.
Are you going to extrapolate that then to confidence with Terry McLaurin?
Yeah,
the matchup is rough.
I think you have to. Terry McLaurin, there's no way you can bench him when he has been as good as he's been. I'm going to be holding my breath. 63.5 is the receiving line for him, which I was a little bit sad to see it that low. You look back the last 3 games, 102 yards, 73 yards, 73 yards, and then you get a 62.5 line. The expectation is this is a really, really difficult defense.
7 touchdowns in his last 6 games. He has 11 on the year, which beat his career high already. I mean, his career high was 7 in his rookie season. He hadn't had more than 5 since then, and this year,
and what's crazy
special season.
Is last week there were only 3 incompletions his way, and all 3 would have been basically bomb touchdowns.
You're probably not going to have Zach Ertz. You don't have Noah Brown. You don't have a backup option.
That's
and
that's
the
part
running
of it.
game is a problem too. Brian Robinson, he will get the work. Brian Robinson or Najee.
That's interesting. That's a fair comp. I think I'm gonna move away on the. I'm gonna let the matchup dictate that one and take Najee because Ravens rush D versus the Eagles rush D.
One thing I've seen a lot from people in the semifinals is a strange desire to bench Devontae Smith this week. So how do you react to that? Because I've seen a lot of situations where they're trying to start someone other than Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I mean,
he had season highs last week of 12 targets, 11 receptions. He didn't practice Wednesday. It's probably just, maintenance.
Devontae Smith is a really, really, really good football player. On the course of the season, he's missed a handful of games. He's wide receiver 34. I feel like he is a fine player, but not one with massive upside. My expectation here in this game is like 6 for 70, and you hope you get a touchdown. So that's someone you're going to start.
Lad McConkey or Devontae Smith. Lad is tonight. That is one of the questions that is the most popular on our site.
That one I would go Devontae Smith because Denver is really tough.
Darnell Mooney or Devontae Smith. You go Devontae Smith.
I would.
Jawan Jennings or Devontae Smith.
Oh, that one's interesting.
Jennings let people down last week.
Jennings did let people down. Miami has been good. I'm going to go Devontae Smith there.
And then A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts are, of course, in your lineup. Jaden Daniels in your lineup. And it's time to Parlay Party, Jason.
Oh, yeah. Let's party like clowns.
I had Chase Brown 25-plus receiving yards last week against Tennessee. He had a monster fantasy day, but 16 receiving yards. Very disappointing. I am wearing the clown wig. And Jason, you had Jamison Williams over 3.5 receptions. He had 3. You were so close. You were so very close. Mike had Devontae Adams 60-plus receiving yards, who nearly tripled it.
I'm Jay Chris.
Yeah.
I'm Jay Chris.
Jay Grizz in the house. And,
Looking good with that crown on.
yeah, he's standing in for Mike.
I'm on a cold streak. I'm going to be honest with you. Through the majority of the season,
I can see it.
I was beating you and Mike, and then the last couple of weeks, you guys went hot. I went cold, but I am pretty bullish on my current pick this week. Sometimes I'm real confident. Sometimes, it's a little dicey. But Jahmyr Gibbs' line for this week, 25-plus receiving yards. Even before the Monty injury, this was a fair line. Like, he's averaged 28 receiving yards. But Monty comes in this year and has had drives in the receiving game. And
I mean, his bad game last week, 4 yards rushing. He still had 4 catches.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs' game, and I don't think the line is adjusted quick enough on him. So that's where in a game against Chicago where Detroit's defense isn't going to be great, 25 should be an achievable number in the receiving game for Gibby Gumdrops.
Okay. I'm going Zay Flowers, 50-plus receiving yards. He's averaged 65 yards a game this year. He's been over that mark 3 straight games. He is the target leader for this team. He's going to accumulate enough of those plays. And, fantasy-wise, he has been doing enough in the target world, but not scoring and not having that one big play. I do think he gets above 50 receiving yards against Pittsburgh this week. And Mike is going with, or Jay Grizz is going with, Malik Neighbors over 5.5 receptions. And it's just been, backing up what you said about Neighbors in your start of the week.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging 7.5 receptions. The matchup is perfect for him. So I love over 5.5. Feeling pretty good about this one.
All right, that was Fantasy Forecast presented by DraftKings Pick 6. Download the new DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use the code BALLERS. That's the code BALLERS for new customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. That is going to do it.
No, it can't do it yet.
Oh,
Have the
great.
waivers ran yet? We have to stretch this out until those waivers run.
It's
any
really
minute
not
now.
worth it. I mean,
Well, you could say now. You can actually
I can say now.
I will not put any claims. I do not have any claims in.
It's the most unexpected name. It was going to.
I can't wait to hear it.
It's the first matchup tomorrow. So I was just going to save it till tomorrow because that's when we're talking about it. But I'll tell you, I believe, and I'm not proud to say this, and I'm going to tease it as long as I can. But I believe my tight end this week in the semifinals will not be Cade Otton. It will not be Brenton Strange. But I believe it will be Chig Okonkwo of the Tennessee Titans.
Chig.
I think it's going to be Chig Okonkwo. Now, Brooks, did you see
Chigga,
waivers go
choo-choo.
through, or did you guess that before I said it? Brooksy, are you on the line?
It was once you said the first game tomorrow. I knew it was Titans.
Okay. You know it's Titans. Yeah. There it is.
Oh.
Look, call it a hunch. Call it an informed guess. Call it a desperation play. Everyone stared at Brenton Strange's targets last week, and that was the kind of special breakout game. What you have this week is Chig Okonkwo, 10 targets last week, a target share over the last, I think, 3 or 4 weeks that is equal to Calvin Ridley, Mason Rudolph taking over, who his splits are better with, and the number 1 matchup in all of fantasy football for tight ends.
Okay.
So I believe that he will be, he's been over the last month targeted on 23% of his routes, the same as Ridley.
You did get him.
I wasn't that worried.
It just went
I
through.
could have said I could have said it at the beginning. I just wanted to have fun. This is where I'm at. I lost Taysom Hill. Cade Otton doesn't look like he looks hurt, and I lost Johnny Smith, and I don't have options. So for me, I think.
Well, you got rid of Johnny Smith.
Yeah, when I thought I had 2 other guys. So I think that the move for me this week is going to be Chig over Brenton Strange, not chasing what happened last week, but looking to the future. And in a matchup, look, Brenton Strange is a catch the ball and fall over guy. Cade Otton is mostly a catch the ball and fall over guy. Chig Okonkwo has David Njoku style after the catch skills.
Yes.
And that's the play I'm going with. Now, Jason, you are looking for some sort of button over. Don't tell me he's hurt. He's not hurt, is he?
Chig Okonkwo on IR. No, that was made up. It looks like the Isaac Garindo will not be playing this week, according to Adam Schefter.
That is big news.
Yeah, so
that is big. So the hamstring injury is that bad.
Yeah, we will look into the backups for tomorrow's news segment, but good to know now.
Yeah, that was one of the things hanging over the week. But it's, do you have confidence in the right person?
I will.
Okay. All right, that'll do it for today's show. Can we quit now? Can we quit, clown?
Yeah, we can move on till tomorrow.
All right, we'll catch you all tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully Mike will be back. We'll get into more matchups in the Fantasy Face-Off. Goodbye.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits expire in 6 months. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.